The walls of the Quartermain mansion have witnessed countless secrets over the years, but none quite as devastating as what Tracy Quartermain is about to uncover. What started as an innocent search for her missing reading glasses will soon spiral into one of the most explosive revelations in Port Charles history, threatening to destroy lives and expose a conspiracy that runs deeper than anyone imagined. It was supposed to be a quiet afternoon at the Quartermain estate. Tracy had been searching through the sitting room, frustrated by her misplaced glasses, when she heard muffled voices drifting from the adjacent study. Something in the tone made her pause. There was an urgency, a secretive quality, that immediately raised her suspicions. Tracy Quartermain didn't become the formidable matriarch she is by ignoring her instincts. Moving closer to the partially open door, Tracy positioned herself where she could hear clearly, but remain unseen. What she heard next would shatter everything she thought she knew about Monica's final wishes and the mysterious sister who had appeared so conveniently after her death. The letters were perfect. Drew's voice carried clearly through the crack in the door, his tone filled with satisfaction. Even Tracy couldn't tell they weren't Monica's handwriting. "You played your part beautifully, Ronnie." Veronica Bard's response sent ice through Tracy's veins. "I have to admit, Drew, when you first approached me with this scheme, I wasn't sure we could pull it off. But creating an entire correspondence between Monica and me, making her believe she had a long-lost sister she'd never mentioned to anyone. It was brilliant." Tracy's hand flew to her mouth, stifling the gasp that threatened to escape. The woman who had inherited the Quartermain mansion, the person Monica supposedly trusted enough to leave her most precious possessions to, was nothing more than a fraud. As Tracy continued to listen in horror, the full scope of Drew and Ronnie's deception began to unfold. Drew's voice grew more animated as he recounted their elaborate scheme. The beauty of it was Monica's condition, Drew continued callously. She was so isolated in her final months, so desperate for connection. When I started intercepting her mail and replacing some letters with one supposedly from you, she never suspected a thing. She was actually grateful to have found family. Ronnie's laugh was bitter and calculating, and I played the part of the estranged sister perfectly. All those stories about our childhood separation, being placed in different foster homes, I researched it all meticulously. Monica ate up every word. Tracy felt sick to her stomach as she realized the cruelty of their actions. Monica had died believing she had reconnected with a sister who loved her, when in reality, she had been manipulated by two people who saw her only as a means to an end. The will change was the trickiest part, Drew admitted. Getting Monica to her lawyer, convincing her that leaving the house to her beloved sister was the right thing to do. But she was so weak by then, so eager to believe in this family connection we'd fabricated. Tracy's growing horror. Tracy's mind raced as she processed what she was hearing. Every interaction she'd had with Ronnie since Monica's death now took on a sinister new meaning. The woman's tears at the funeral, her stories about childhood memories with Monica, her seemingly genuine grief, it had all been an elaborate performance. The best part, Ronnie was saying, her voice dripping with satisfaction, is that no one can prove anything. Monica's dead. There's no one left who can contradict our story about being sisters. The DNA tests you arranged through your contacts were perfect forgeries. Drew chuckled darkly. And even if someone gets suspicious, who's going to believe that sweet, grieving Ronnie could be capable of such an elaborate con? You've played the part perfectly. Tracy's hands trembled as she gripped the door frame. The audacity of their scheme was breathtaking. They had not only stolen Monica's estate, but had violated the very memory of a woman who had shown them nothing but kindness. There is one problem, though. Ronnie's voice took on a concerned tone. Tracy's been asking a lot of questions. She doesn't trust me, and she's not the type to just let things go. Drew's response was chilling. Tracy's always been a problem, but she can't prove anything, and if she gets too close to the truth, well, let's just say accidents happen in old mansions like this. Tracy had heard enough. Moving as quietly as possible, she retreated from the doorway and made her way to the main hall. Her mind was reeling, but she knew exactly what she had to do. This wasn't just about the Quartermain estate anymore. This was about justice for Monica and exposing to criminals who had preyed on a dying woman's loneliness. With shaking hands, Tracy pulled out her phone and dialed the Port Charles Police Department. When the dispatcher answered, Tracy's voice was steady despite her emotional turmoil. "This is Tracy Quartermain. I need to report a fraud case, a very serious one. I have information about a conspiracy involving forged documents, identity theft, and possibly murder." Her voice grew stronger with each word. "And I can tell you exactly where to find the perpetrators." The investigation unfolds. Detective Anna Devane arrived at the Quartermain mansion within the hour, accompanied by several officers. Tracy met them at the front door, her face grim with determination. "I know this is going to sound incredible," Tracy began as she led Anna to a private room away from where Drew and Ronnie were still meeting. "But I've just discovered that my sister-in-law was the victim of an elaborate con game that resulted in her estate being stolen." Anna listened intently as Tracy recounted everything she had overheard. The detective's expression grew increasingly serious as the details emerged. "You're telling me that Veronica Bard isn't actually Monica's sister?" Anna asked, taking detailed notes. "She's not Monica's sister at all," Tracy confirmed. "According to what I heard, Drew hired her to impersonate a long-lost sister. They forged letters, manipulated Monica into believing she had family she'd never known about, and convinced her to change her will." Anna's eyes sharpened. "And you heard them discussing forged DNA tests?" Tracy nodded grimly. "Drew apparently has contacts who can fake just about anything. They've thought of everything, except the possibility that someone might overhear them gloating about their success." The confrontation. As Anna prepared to make arrests, Tracy insisted on being present when Drew and Ronnie were confronted. "I want to see their faces when they realize their perfect crime has fallen apart," she declared. The study door burst open as Anna and several officers entered, catching Drew and Ronnie completely off guard. The shock on their faces was everything Tracy had hoped for. "Drew Kane, Veronica Bard, you're both under arrest for conspiracy, fraud, forgery, and elder abuse," Anna announced, her voice carrying the full weight of authority. Drew immediately tried to bluster his way out. "This is ridiculous. You can't possibly believe whatever wild story Tracy has concocted. She's been jealous of my relationship with Monica from the beginning." But Ronnie's face had gone pale, and Tracy could see the panic in her eyes. The con artist knew the game was up. "I don't know what you think you heard," Ronnie began, but Anna cut her off. "We heard enough," Anna replied coolly, "including your discussion of forged DNA tests, fabricated correspondence, and manipulating a dying woman into changing her will." Tracy stepped forward, her eyes blazing with righteous anger. "Did you really think you could walk into my family's home, steal from a woman on her deathbed, and I would just let it happen?" The aftermath. As Drew and Ronnie were led away in handcuffs, Tracy felt a mixture of satisfaction and sadness. Justice would be served, but it couldn't undo the cruelty that had been inflicted on Monica in her final months. "The will is obviously invalid," Anna informed Tracy. "Monica's estate will revert to her legitimate heirs while we sort out the full extent of the fraud." Tracy nodded, but her mind was already on the larger implications. Monica died believing she had found family. They stole more than just money and property. They stole her peace in her final days. The investigation that followed would reveal the full scope of Drew and Ronnie's conspiracy. Phone records showed months of coordination. Financial records revealed payments to forgers and other accomplices. And handwriting experts would confirm that every letter supposedly from Sister Ronnie had been carefully crafted to deceive a lonely, dying woman. Justice served. The trial would become one of the most talked-about cases in Port Charles history. Drew's fall from respected congressman to convicted criminal was swift and complete, while Ronnie's background as a professional con artist with multiple aliases came to light. But for Tracy, the real victory wasn't in seeing them punished. It was in knowing that Monica's memory had been restored. The genuine love and respect the Quartermain family had for their matriarch could never be erased by the lies of two criminals who had tried to exploit her final act of kindness. As Tracy stood in the mansion that would now return to the family where it belonged, she made a silent promise to her late sister-in-law. Never again would the Quartermain legacy be vulnerable to such predators. The family's strength lay not in their wealth or property, but in their unwavering commitment to protecting each other, even from beyond the grave. The shocking discovery that began with a simple search for reading glasses had exposed one of the most heartless crimes Port Charles had ever seen. But it had also proven that some bonds, like the love of family and the pursuit of justice, are stronger than any scheme devised by those who would prey upon the vulnerable. Tracy Quartermain had ensured that Monica's true legacy would endure, while Drew and Ronnie would spend years paying for their calculated cruelty. Next, we will learn about the 3 explosive moments set to shake Port Charles during the week of October 13, 2025. Excitement is building as longtime fans brace for intense interrogations, cunning legal maneuvers, and haunting dreams that could unravel hidden truths across the town. These developments promise to deepen the web of secrets surrounding key characters, pulling viewers deeper into the drama that defines this iconic soap opera. First up, the spotlight falls on Nina Reeves as she faces a tense police interrogation that could expose long-buried deceptions. The investigation into Drew Kane's shocking shooting has taken a dramatic turn, with new evidence surfacing to challenge alibis and loyalties alike. Nina, known for her fierce protective instincts, finds herself dragged into the station after surveillance footage reveals inconsistencies in her story. It all stems from Willow Tate's desperate need for cover during the chaotic events, though Willow insists she never requested any fabrication from her mother. Nina, acting on pure maternal impulse, stepped in to provide an alibi without consulting Willow, believing it was the only way to shield her daughter from mounting suspicion. But now, with Anna Devane piecing together the timeline from security cameras at the scene, it's clear Nina wasn't by Willow's side when the shots rang out, leaving gaping holes in their defense. As the officers press Nina for answers, she might initially panic, fearing she's the prime target, only to pivot and grasp that Willow's involvement looks far more incriminating. In a heartfelt twist, Nina could confess her lie was born out of unwavering love, vowing to fight for Willow's innocence no matter the cost. This moment not only tests Nina's resolve, but also highlights the fragile trust between mother and daughter, as Willow grapples with the fallout of unintended consequences. Viewers might speculate if this interrogation uncovers Nina's own past missteps, like her history of media manipulations at Crimson, adding layers to her character as she balances redemption with risk. Shifting gears to the Quartermain mansion, where family intrigue brews, Tracy Quartermain embarks on a strategic quest for legal counsel to dismantle what she perceives as a masterful con artist game. Tracy, ever the shrewd businesswoman with a nose for deception, has zeroed in on Veronica Ronnie as a potential threat lurking in the shadows of the Quartermain legacy. Ronnie's sudden appearance and polished demeanor have raised red flags, especially as she cozies up to influential figures within the family circle. Tracy's preliminary sleuthing poring over public records and discreet inquiries has yielded little dirt. Ronnie's background appears impeccably spotless, from her fabricated charity work to her seemingly genuine connections in high society. Undeterred, Tracy schedules a clandestine meeting with a top-tier attorney, aiming to explore every avenue for exposing Ronnie's true motives while safeguarding Monica Quartermain's will from any tampering. This legal consultation could reveal overlooked clauses in the estate documents or suggest private investigators to dig deeper into Ronnie's financial trails, perhaps uncovering offshore accounts or alias identities that betray her facade. As allies multiply for Ronnie, think charming lunches with Ned or subtle alliances with Brooke Lynn. Tracy might find herself isolated in this battle, relying on her legendary tenacity rather than family support. The tension escalates when Tracy uncovers a forged letter, seemingly from Monica, hinting at Ronnie's inheritance claims, forcing her to question loyalties even among her own kin. This storyline delves into themes of legacy and betrayal, showcasing Tracy's evolution from meddler to vigilant guardian as she navigates the cutthroat world of Port Charles elite. Finally, in a surreal blend of subconscious longing and real-world peril, Ric Lansing plunges into vivid dreams featuring Elizabeth Liz Baldwin, stirring echoes of their complicated past. Confined and vulnerable after his botched escape attempt from captivity, Rick was subdued by Ava Jerome, who callously administered sedatives to keep him in check amid her own escalating schemes. Under the haze of these forced dreams, Rick's mind wanders to Liz, conjuring intimate scenes of their shared history, from stolen moments in the hospital corridors to unresolved tensions from their on-again, off-again romance. These visions aren't mere fantasies. They pulse with urgency, as if Rick's subconscious is screaming for help from his dire situation. Meanwhile, across town, Liz begins to revisit a mysterious phone call she received recently, the distorted voice haunting her thoughts. Initially chalked up to her self-imposed digital detox and the stresses of her nursing shifts, Liz now wonders if it was Rick reaching out in desperation, disguised by static and fear. Could this dream connection transcend the physical divide, allowing Liz to intuitively sense Rick's entrapment and the dangers posed by Ava's manipulative hold? As the week unfolds, Liz might confide in trusted friends like Terry or even Hamilton, prompting her to trace the call's origin, potentially leading to a daring rescue plot. This narrative thread weaves psychological depth into the action, exploring how past loves linger and influence present crises, while hinting at Rick's potential redemption arc if he survives Ava's wrath. Beyond these core revelations, ripples extend to other corners of Port Charles, particularly in the strained marriage of Curtis Ashford and Portia Robinson. In a surprising pivot, Curtis urges Portia to pause their impending divorce proceedings, injecting hope into their fractured relationship just as Portia contemplates announcing her pregnancy. Portia's caution stems from the need for a definitive paternity test, unwilling to upend lives without clarity amid the town's swirling scandals. Yet Curtis's plea seems tied more to the ongoing probe into Drew's shooting, where their combined insights as community pillars could prove vital. Perhaps Curtis has uncovered a clue linking the attack to broader corruption, enlisting Portia's medical expertise to analyze evidence discreetly. This development not only stalls their separation, but also fosters tentative reconciliation, as they navigate co-parenting possibilities and renewed commitment against the backdrop of violence. Fans will watch closely to see if this unity exposes deeper conspiracies or reignites old sparks. Next, we will learn about the devastating spiral engulfing Willow Tate, whose world has crumbled since losing everything she holds dear in Port Charles. Willow's heartbreaking courtroom collapse. In a scene that left viewers gasping, Willow Tate's emotional fortress shatter during the custody hearing for her beloved children, Wiley Corinthos and Amelia Corinthos, as the judge's gavel fell in favor of her ex-husband Michael Corinthos, granting him full custody this past summer. Willow's face drained of color, her body trembling uncontrollably before she collapsed in a heap of sobs on the cold courtroom floor. Witnesses described her descent into a near catatonic state, her eyes vacant as if her soul had fled, forcing paramedics to rush her to General Hospital for emergency stabilization. This wasn't just a momentary lapse. It marked the beginning of Willow's unraveling, a stark reminder of how the relentless pressures of Port Charles' elite families can crush even the strongest spirits. Adding to the tragedy, insiders whisper that Willow had poured her heart into therapy sessions and parenting classes in a desperate bid to prove her stability, only for Michael's influential connections bolstered by the Quartermain legacy to tip the scales against her. Her breakdown wasn't merely dramatic flair. It exposed deep-seated fears of abandonment rooted in her own turbulent past, including her time in the foster system and the shadows of her biological ties to the infamous Nina Reeves, a homeless nurse in a city of secrets. Fast forward to the present, and Willow's plight has only intensified, stripping her of not just her children but her very sense of home. Displaced and directionless after the custody verdict, she turned to her boss and unlikely confidant, Elizabeth Weber, for shelter at the Weber residence, a modest haven amid the opulent estates of the wealthy. Liz, ever the pillar of quiet strength, with her own history of nursing broken hearts and hidden scandals, opened her doors without hesitation. But this act of kindness now threatens to ensnare her in Willow's growing web of suspicion. Willow's days are now a blur of shift work at the hospital, where she tends to patients while her mind races with regrets, and sleepless nights haunted by visions of her kids' laughter echoing in empty rooms. To deepen the irony, Willow's nursing skills, once a source of pride, now feel like a cruel joke as she battles her own emotional wounds without the support of family therapy or even a stable routine. Rumors swirl that Michael's decision to relocate the children to the sprawling Quartermain mansion has isolated Willow further, symbolizing how the Corinthos-Quartermain alliance prioritizes legacy over compassion, leaving her to scrape by in a city that chews up the vulnerable. The stalking shadow over Sasha and baby Daisy, complicating Willow's fragile recovery. Her actions took a darker turn when she fixated on her former friend Sasha Gilmore and the newborn Daisy Gilmore, leading to a confrontation that banished Sasha from Port Charles entirely. What began as innocent curiosity, Willow's longing to connect with someone who understood the pains of new motherhood, escalated into obsessive stalking, with Willow lingering outside Sasha's apartment and even slipping notes under the door expressing misplaced concern. Sasha, already reeling from her own losses, including the tragic stillbirths in her past, felt violated and fled the town, vowing never to return amid the whispers of Willow's instability. This incident, detailed in police reports, painted Willow as a woman teetering on obsession, her maternal instincts twisted by grief into something unrecognizable. Analysts of the storyline point to this as a classic soap motif, the blurred line between protection and possession, especially for a character like Willow, whose identity has long been tied to caregiving roles, from her days a teacher to her sacrificial bone marrow donation. If unaddressed, this pattern could foreshadow even more explosive family feuds, drawing in Sasha's allies like the ever-vigilant Felicia Scorpio. The supervised visit that nearly broke her. Just when a glimmer of hope appeared, Michael's olive branch proposal for supervised visits with the children pushed Willow to the brink of another collapse. During a tense meeting at the park, as Wiley and Amelia played innocently nearby under a watchful nanny's eye, Willow's hands shook as she reached out, only for the restrictions to hit like a slap. No unsupervised time, constant monitoring, and the implicit threat of revocation at Michael's whim. Her voice cracked as she pleaded for more, tears streaming down her face in a raw display of vulnerability that echoed her courtroom despair. This moment highlighted the power imbalance in their fractured co-parenting, with Michael citing Willow's erratic behavior as justification, a phrase that stung like betrayal from the man she once loved deeply. Behind the scenes, Willow confided in is about nightmares where the kids slipped away forever, underscoring how these visits, meant to heal, instead amplified her isolation. In a broader sense, this subplot critiques the rigid family court systems in soap universes, where redemption arcs for flawed parents like Willow are prolonged for maximum drama, building tension toward potential reconciliations or further rifts. The PCPD raid, a warrant that shook the foundations. Tensions boiled over dramatically when Port Charles Police Department officers stormed Liz Weber's home with a search warrant, their sirens piercing the quiet neighborhood like a harbinger of doom. Willow, caught mid-conversation about her latest therapy breakthrough, froze as detectives combed through drawers and closets, their gloved hands overturning Willow's few belongings in a hunt for evidence tied to the recent shooting of Drew Kane. The raid wasn't random. It stemmed from mounting suspicions, linking Willow's instability to the high-profile attack on the mayoral candidate, whose recovery has been a hot topic in town hall meetings. Liz, shielding Willow protectively, cooperated fully but couldn't hide her worrying, later admitting to colleagues that the intrusion felt like an invasion of their fragile sanctuary. This event amplified Willow's paranoia as she paced the living room questioning every past decision. From her brief flirtations with vigilante justice to her access to restricted areas during hospital shifts. For fans, it's a nail-biter setup, reminiscent of past GH mysteries where innocent bystanders like Liz get collateral damage, forcing viewers to ponder if Willow's desperation could indeed lead to such a crime. Uncovering the gun, Edward Quartermain's ghostly legacy. In a twist straight out of a noir thriller, The October 10th episode unveiled a smoking gun literally during Police Chief Anna Devane's meticulous search of Liz's abode. Tucked away in a forgotten drawer amid medical supplies, the firearm was none other than the late Edward Quatermain's prized heirloom, a relic swiped from the opulent Quatermain mansion under murky circumstances. Edward, the patriarchal titan whose schemes still echo through Port Charles boardrooms, would no doubt spin in his grave at this desecration of family artifacts. Anna's keen eyes lit up with recognition, her British accent sharpening as she bagged the weapon, its serial number confirming its Quatermain origins and ballistic matches to the bullet lodged in Drew's shoulder. Since Liz remains above suspicion, with her alibi ironclad from a double shift at the hospital, all fingers point squarely at Willow, who had slipped into the Q estate under the pretense of visiting old friends while actually surveilling Sasha and baby Daisy. Dante Falconeri, piecing together timelines with his trademark intensity, noted how Willow's unauthorized entry granted her prime opportunity to pocket the gun, perhaps in a haze of rage-fueled impulse. Yet, this discovery raises tantalizing questions. Was it a calculated grab during one of her midnight wanderings, or did someone plan it to exploit her vulnerabilities? The gun's presence in her temporary home is damning optics, evoking images of Willow as a modern-day Lady Macbeth, haunted by potential guilt. Arrest looms, Ferncliff or freedom. With the evidence stacking against her, ABC General Hospital spoilers buzz with predictions of Anna Devane's impending arrest of Willow, set to unfold in the coming week and send shockwaves through Port Charles. Anna, balancing her Interpol-honed instincts with a touch of empathy from her own checkered past, plans a formal interrogation, potentially cuffing Willow right outside Liz's door in a scene dripping with pathos. History on the show suggests Ferncliff Sanitarium as Willow's likely destination, that foreboding institution where fractured minds like Heather Weber's have been rehabilitated amid whispers of corruption. Willow's innocence until proven guilty rings hollow against the gun's incriminating shadow. But could this be an elaborate frame job? Suspects abound, a vengeful Nina seeking to reclaim her daughter through chaos, or even Michael's rivals aiming to destabilize the Corinthos empire by targeting its soft underbelly. Willow's arc teeters on redemption versus ruin, with her nursing colleagues rallying subtly, perhaps Terry Randolph organizing a defense fund while the town gossips divide into camps. If convicted, her sentence could span years, severing ties to Wiley and Amelia indefinitely, but acquittal might spark a fierce comeback, allying her with unlikely saviors like Drew himself. GH fans, do you believe Willow snatched that Quatermain gun and pulled the trigger on Drew Kane? Or is she the victim of a cunning setup designed to bury her for good?